And how was your week?
Yeah. What was the week?
Uh,
Ooh.
I would say it was what it was. No, there's some ups and downs, but it's been very busy for me, generally in terms of work. Um, so the month of May is a busy month for us where we work,
Mm-hmm.
but it's doing like exciting things, bringing capacity to the community. So it feels good in one
Right.
way, but
Okay.
because obviously we are human when we put up the hours or thinking through different steps, so of course it has its natural toll. But I'm still loving it. I'm still motivated.
Okay. Very, very, very good to know.
Yeah.
Anyone else? How was your week?
The week was intense. Because only when I looked at my schedule, I
Mm-hmm.
realized that I was doing something almost every day, which required a lot of energy. And
Mm-hmm.
that included Saturday, because I also had a workshop on Saturday. And then this morning, another workshop. So Sunday, I took it off to sort of relax and prep for this week. But Sunday, I ended up doing the same thing, but in a slower pace. So the week really was intense. And as you were saying, Mr. S, I'm looking at my May calendar and I'm wondering what made it so busy, because just about everybody seemed to want something in May for some reason.
Okay.
And it's this, and we're finishing out the month really with the same pace, because today was one thing, Tuesdays be at work. So going right down on Saturday where we have the discussion. So
Mm-hmm.
it was nice. It was nice. I am here. I am ready.
Okay. Understood. Understood. All right. So I know that the topic for tonight is, let me just let you know what that is. Defining what success really means. And while that is the case, let me read something for you first, which is today's post, which was talking about busyness. Because a lot of times we get ourselves caught up with busyness, but then when you really look at the busyness, you recognize that within it, sometimes you're really not even getting anything accomplished. So the post said busyness is often just organized distraction. Having a lot to do is not a sign of a valued life. More often, it is a sign of a life pulled in many directions, but truly committed to nothing. A full calendar does not mean a full life. A peaceful mind is real wealth. Now, when you think about that, then you think about the topic which states defining what success really means. Are you someone who is consumed by busyness, or are you able to map things out and set out whatever the processes are and all of that?
Looking at this calendar that went this last week, I think I would want to say that was a lot of busyness. I mean, it was fulfilling work
Mm-hmm.
in that we were reaching into some of the school systems, things that where we were increasing our visibility, our networking, sharing and helping.
Mm-hmm.
But goodness, I wonder sometimes as to the full value of it,
Mm-hmm.
because, and I even had an instance on Saturday at the workshop where I actually had to dip very, very deep into my toolkit. There was a young lady who apparently she was of the view that someone should not have spoken to her the way they did.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't there when it happened. I just was passing and she was all upset. And there was another young lady sitting across from her, willing to join in the upset, which is what we always say. We can share our thinkings, but she was getting it. And I was, trying to let her know that in business, you take nothing personal. Do not take it as something personal. The person has not attacked you, they have spoken.
Mm-hmm.
And no, but she was dead set. And then the funniest thing she said to me at the end of it was that you said in business, but I'm not in business. I'm in medicine. I'm a doctor. And I said, okay, I got to be careful to avoid whatever hospital you're attached to because that just made no sense at all. But it gave me the opportunity to say, well, okay, fine. This is exactly how you sound when you would not calm down about something. And so to remind yourself to quickly calm down about many things because I think that what the incident was had probably happened maybe 15 minutes before and she was still carrying all of that.
Yeah.
So it gave me the opportunity to say to myself, uh-huh, exactly how you would. So all you trying to tell her, just let her be. In the end, I said, I gift you peace. And I just went off. Someone, there were 50 of them in that room. So you can't spend too much time with one. But sometimes I feel that there's a lot of busyness in my schedule.
Yeah.
You need to
Yeah.
get things done, but not really. There are times when you don't really feel fulfilled in it. You're just getting it done because it has to get done. And that's when it starts to feel like a chore.
Uh,
Yes.
I would agree with you, Catherine. I think I did. If I were to look at my personal and work schedule, it would definitely look like I'm scheduled. And even there are some stuff that probably did not make it to my calendar. And there is a sense of fulfillment. As to your question, I think there are two parts to it. There's the planning process and some of the projects that we do. We plan certain things, and it's almost like you plan it, you hope that it will go that particular way. But we are not perfect machines, so things do go sideways. And for me, and I experienced that during the Mother's Day celebration,
Mm-hmm.
and things were not going as we planned. And to me, this is where you have to pivot, right? You have to be like, okay, this is the scenario. I need to step up, not from a sense of business, but from a sense of responsiveness, right?
Yes.
It's not about me. And I'm glad you said that, Catherine, because people don't understand when you say, and business. It's not personal. This is not your personal life. It's not your romantic life. Of course, it's business. You're transacting with folks. And at my job, a lot of time that's what we have to do. It, it's less about managing projects. Sometimes it's more about managing people, people's attitude, temperament, and their sense of view, and you have to do it while you put yours to some degree on hold because you don't want to get into the mirror with them, right? So it's almost like, let's address what needs to be addressed. It's not about me, and I'm not going to take it personal, but I still need to address what needs to be addressed. So I think it's a little bit of both busyness because things comes up, but
Mm-hmm.
also planning and also plan for it not to go as you plan. So, and we go with the flow.
Yeah. I know some people just came in and I was asking the question as it relates to tonight's topic and then today's post which spoke about busyness in comparison to defining what success really means. Because today's post stated that busyness is often just organized distraction. Having a lot to do is not a sign of valued life. More often, it is a sign of a life pulled in many directions but truly committed to nothing. A full calendar does not mean a full life. A peaceful mind is real wealth. So, that is what we are speaking on. So, as it relates to you, do you think that you are more busy, or do you think that whatever you are doing or whatever you are planning to achieve is really formulated properly and you have the process in place and you are practicing whatever needs to be practiced? Or do you think you are still functioning from a space of organized destruction?
I think for me, it depends, right? On the situation, the scenario. Um, like, okay, this weekend it was like a long weekend, holiday weekend, and I went to the beach. I went fishing, but didn't catch any fish. Um, so I think like I was like, okay, well, I'll go to the beach on Saturday, and then I was invited to go fishing. I was like, oh my gosh, but tomorrow I have to go to work. Should I go fishing? Should I not go fishing? And I actually did go, and it was very relaxing. So for me, it depends on what you do. Like, okay, but at work now, it's like there's so many I's to be dotted, T's to be crossed, especially like in the medical field where you have to be like so on top of your documentation, so on top of your patient care, so on top of everything because you have somebody's life in your hand that it could sometimes become chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
You work in an organization where they want you to complete 6 million things in 8 hours, so it's like yes, you try to prioritize, but you always feel rushed. You always feel like, oh my gosh, I can't sit and fully give this 100% of my time, even if I want to, because I have the next task. It always feel like, oh, I have a next task to complete, and the time is not enough to complete all the tasks that's required.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it depends on the space and the situation. There are other times where I could like I said, this weekend it was fine. I went out, I did something, and I was able to, relax and unwind and really enjoy it. And like the people that invited me out, I came back and I was like, you know what? I'm so grateful to these people,
Mm-hmm.
to be, inviting me to have these experiences. And then, like I said, tomorrow's work is back to the rat race, so to speak. You don't want to be like that, but it's just I think the culture now and the pressures that industries put on patients, especially here, especially in healthcare, where it's not about patient safety and patient care, is that turnover, that financial turnover,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't realize how much pressure they're putting on employees to meet the demand that is a lot of times not practical.
Yeah, understood. And even in your line of work, is there a process for doing things?
There is a process. I think there's always a process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so I don't work inpatient, I work outpatient. But if you work inpatient setting, is always a process whereby, you have to prioritize. Okay, you do vital signs, you give meds, you check this, you check that, you check that. But sometimes if you're one nurse to 8 patients,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Yes, you prioritize. Yes, there's a process, but it's the demand that they would have on that one person to take care of these 8 patients. I work outpatients. It's kind of like this similar. So you have a list of patients coming in that day. You have a list of tasks that you do, or you have um, a process in which how you take care of each patient. But in the background, you still have your documentation. You still have to go, answer emails. You still have to go take messages. You still have to, so that's where the chaos
Okay.
takes place. It's not necessary in the day-to-day process of how to handle it, but it's just like there's so many different tasks that you have to do within that time frame that makes it like chaotic.
Okay. And have you ever like sat down um just as we were told, set your space and you sit down with the process, even though it may be a chaotic one, and ask the question as it relates to how best do I approach this? And is there a more efficient way to approach this because of how heavy it may seem throughout the day?
I think I have. I think part of it too is when you become comfortable in your task,
Mhm,
um, especially if you're doing this process for a long time, where it's like it kind of becomes second nature, you
mhm,
know? And I know for a fact for me, like going to work, yeah, I say my little prayer, just, what's the next step? What's this? And, you know, really, when I do say my prayer or I do ask my question or I do say to myself that, it's going to be a good day, somehow or the other it works out. You know what I mean? Where it's just like you're more calm, things where you think might have been chaotic based on like the provider you're working with or whatever, it just flows, compared to that unorganized chaos.
yeah.
So there is times, like I said, you step back, you ask the question, and you just go with the flow.
Mhm,
Just be instead of always trying to, okay, well, I have this to do, I have that to do, I have this to do, I have that to do.
yeah.
But I think part of it too is sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves
Yeah.
to get everything done.
Yeah.
And you have to be give yourself grace. It doesn't matter if it's your personal life, if you're working for somebody, if you're not working for somebody. There's certain things that you can't get done, and you have to be okay. Well, okay, I can't complete everything today,
Mhm,
and know that it's okay to leave some for the next day.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And that is why I asked the question about asking a question, because a lot of times we think that the answer for yesterday's question is also the answer for today's question. So sometimes, yes, something might work out once and you fall into that pattern based on that answer, but today required a different response. And because sometimes we didn't take the time to ask today's question and we go with whatever was the answer for yesterday's question, sometimes we tend to fall into another fog. And you see, that is why I know this is something that we have to practice. And yes, we were told in terms of ask whatever the question is. Every opportunity that you get, remember the universe, it wasn't meant to be easy. The challenges will come. But when whatever it is you might be facing, before you do anything, you really have to pause and take a breath and ask a question. Because sometimes we might be functioning on an answer or a response or a solution that was created for yesterday. And today is today. Remember, every moment is a new moment. So even where the task might be a monotonous task, sometimes you might think you're doing a monotonous task and something else comes to mind. And of course, of course, and I know Nicola with the psychology aspect could attest to this in terms of we fall back into whatever the pattern is. So because this worked 2 weeks ago, let me use this because it is a familiar pattern. You get comfortable. This is what it is now. And then sometimes it's not required to work for now. It was required for last week. So in each moment, and I know it is something that a lot of us struggle to really practice and to really keep in mind. But with each thing, and especially if you are in a situation like Lisa's, which is sometimes because certain jobs, yes, they are very, very demanding. But within that space, you really have to remember to ask, even though you asked yesterday, even though you might have asked 5 minutes ago. Because the solution to 5 minutes ago may not be the solution that is required for now. And again, I know it is something that we take some time to wrap our heads around. But once you start to put it into practice, you would recognize that you might be going, you always go a particular direction if you're going to a particular place, and then you might hear, pass this route, do this instead. I even remember once I was going to buy lunch, something that is monotonous. You always go by these people. This is monotonous. And I keep hearing, don't buy the potato salad. And I was like, but that don't make no sense. What do you mean don't buy the potato salad? So then what this meal going to look like? And again, it doesn't make sense. And I think it was like provision and peas and dumpling. It was something that didn't make no sense. So you wanted the potato salad. Of course, I did not listen. Right? So took the food back up to where I sat in the office, opened the box, and that potato salad smelled so fresh. It was as though somebody had cracked a raw egg in the potato salad. And of course, I didn't want to listen because this is the norm, this is the practice. So you're expecting that what was yesterday still exists today, not realizing that today is a new moment and every moment is a new moment and should be approached as such. So it is something that you really have to be mindful about, especially when the challenges appear, especially when you are experiencing the difficulty, to ask the question before just choosing to make the monotonous choice because this is something that you're accustomed to. Yes, Katrin, I'm seeing that you have your hand raised.
Yes, I was listening to when Lisa was speaking, and as you were talking there, I know that I am one of the persons who I would say, okay, we did this before. And even sometimes the proposals, if someone, the same client would ask for a proposal, and I would say, okay, fine, I just need to find the last one I sent for you and change the date, change because you're asking for the exact thing. And then I was made to realize that the moment is different, the breeze is different, the wind is different, the person may be in a different um, state of mind that day. What is going on around them, the energy and so forth will be different, which is what we cannot see. But so coming out of that, I had to learn, and I am still learning because sometimes I have the tendency to want to go back into the old way to say, this, I did this yesterday. And what Adana was saying about asking in the moment is really so important because yesterday the wind might have been blowing from the east and that person was feeling great with the easterly breeze. But today, the wind is not blowing at all, not that they could feel it. And so it's not really the same situation, it's not the same person. And for me, that is something that I have to constantly pay attention to, the fact that you have to ask, you have to ask, you have to ask is almost like an invisible conversation because two-thirds of us is really not seen. So it means that two-thirds of what is going on, the mental, the spiritual aspect, all combining, and we are not seen, so we can't use our eyes to see. But one of the things when Lisa was speaking, Lisa, I wanted to ask you, if you are working in outpatient, aren't you putting a little pressure on yourself, worrying about what's going on in inpatient?
No, I wasn't referencing. That was just like a reference of things that happen in patient, at least here in the U.S., where the workload is a big ordeal for nurses now. Like the nurse to patient ratio is so high. So I'm not that I'm worrying about it. It was just me talking and giving reference to that
But why are you
because
carrying that?
I'm not carrying it. I'm just speaking and mentioning it. It doesn't affect me in any way. But that
Okay.
I was just drawing reference to say, like in the inpatient setting, this is what happens.
Okay.
And that is where the confusion lie, and this is where they start to feel overwhelmed because of that ratio. It has nothing to do with me or I think about it, I sit and hap on it. No,
Okay.
it was just for informational purposes.
Okay.
Yes. And also, again, let me just read another post that was sent out on Saturday. And I know we still referencing experiences and how we deal and how we approach experiences and challenges. But this could be a tentative solution for you, because Saturday's post spoke of your well being as a daily choice. Choose rest over guilt, choose boundaries over burnout, choose presence over productivity, choose yourself over people pleasing. Well being is not the reward of pampered luxury, it is the foundation of you that everything is built on. And a lot of times we see well being as, well, I work hard this month, let me go and buy myself an ice cream. Or I work hard this month, let me go to this restaurant. And it is really not a reward. And a lot of times that is what we see it as. Instead of, you look at the month, and even for Lisa, I know you said that this weekend you went fishing and stuff, and start to schedule things in, just like how you have to go to work Monday to Friday. Schedule things into your life so that it becomes the foundation of you that everything is built on, and not just seen as, well, I could only get this when, or I could only get this if, or I could only experience this after I work hard for 12 months, and now I decide, well, I'm going to do something or something like that. And a lot of times that is how we look at something that should be seen as a daily choice, because your well-being is a daily choice. And even sometimes you might get up in the morning. I see somebody put self-care. Yes, SGL put self-care. You might get up in the morning and you might hear, don't go to work today. And then so be it. And I know sometimes asking the question might seem a little bit daunting at first, but after you would recognize that things are coming more naturally. Like now for me, I recognize things are coming more naturally, even though this morning I didn't listen. Still, you know? And the more you practice it, the easier it is going to become. But you really, really, really have to practice this. And in a lot of instances, it is going to make absolutely no kind of sense. It is going to make no kind of sense. Sometimes you might understand why, and other times you will just have to accept, and you may never get the answer as to why. But within it, you really have to start to practice trusting yourself. Because when the questions arise to, you ask the question and then the pattern resurface. Well, no, this is what usually happens, because of course the ego has to introduce the pattern to make you safe. This is what usually happens, but you really have to start to practice it. You ask the question, okay. Sometimes you ask it twice. You ask it, you might say, okay, you send it back again, ask again, and then see what comes before you proceed. Because a lot of times you just don't even bother. And again, on the other side of the uncomfortable feeling is every single thing that you have been asking for. On the other side of the uncomfortable feeling. And why? Well, I know for those who are here during the week, but even this is a question for everyone. Why do you think that you should define what success really means?
I think
You have a
success for
definition.
everyone. I think success for everyone is different though. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to know who you are and what success means to you, and not look at what success means to
Other people.
anybody else. Yeah.
Yes. And that is
Because
why, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, because then you would go off course,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah. Because sometimes you might be looking at the success of Beyonce and think that that's supposed to be yours, or try to follow her steps, or whoever it is that you might, look up to. And a lot of times we define our lives based on other person's success, because, of course, we always looking outside of ourselves for the answers instead of looking within. And in doing so, you might think that, well, this person get you with this particular thing, but that person gets you with that particular thing. And I know that is something that has never worked out for me. You know, all these persons who do the pyramid scheme and get money, I never used to get you. I never used to get you with so many things. So even if I attempted to do what somebody else, so I just stopped bothering. I never used to get you. People would get away and get you with certain things. I never used to get you with it. So because of it, I just stopped. I stopped trying altogether. And in a sense, I was kind of forced to determine what does work for you. And a lot of times, that is something we don't do. We look outside of ourselves. So this person hopped once and jumped twice, and they got this result. So let me try it. Instead of really sitting with yourself and asking self, what is required for you today? What is required for me today? It is not something that we really practice at all. A lot of times we really wish and hope and have faith that it would work out the same way. But I can tell you, for me, it never, absolutely never does. I waste time and I waste effort and I get no results. And what do you think is the difference between external success and personal fulfillment? Oh, sorry, Catherine, I'm seeing that you have your hand raised.
No, I just went over the last minute. There's a situation in my neighborhood, and my neighbor told me what she did. And just as we were saying, you tend to look at the outside to see what other people did. And so I was laughing because every time I see her, I remember what she said she did. And there's a little voice in the back of my head that is saying ever so often, well, you could do the same thing. If you do the same thing, you might get the result that you know you're looking for. And I have to literally talk to this little voice and say, we're not gonna do that. Let us just leave that, because basically what you're trying to do is to see if you could get a result for yourself based on somebody else's experience. So when you were talking, Adana, just now, it just flashed right back into my mind how that little voice comes up so quickly. You could do it like that person. You could do this. That person did it, and you could do it too.
And you
And
see, that specific sentence and voice is something that was really told to you as a child from adults, in a lot of different instances. And it is a form, I know the perspective of the adult is really to motivate the child to do or to achieve certain results, but it is really based on one person's experience and scenario instead of really honing in on whatever you might need to focus on. And you see, again, there is so much to unlearn. And even for Catherine, that is a voice. And for a lot of us too, that is a voice that you're still hearing. You know, if you do so and so, you could do it too. That is a voice that you would still hear. And it is something that was told to many of us growing up. And again, it is just, probably not what was best at the time, but at the end of the day, everybody was doing their best trying to motivate or get the younger ones to, be more involved or whatever it is. But you're realizing now that it really had some effects, and it's still having some effects on us now, even now. And again, that is why ask a question. Do not just proceed. Ask, 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 ask. Sit with yourself. Even though, Lisa, you might know you have this week coming up, let me just sit with myself first. It could be 10 minutes every day to find out in what manner do I approach this. So even for Katrin, if she is planning a workshop, you sit with it, even though it might appear the same, or even for Lisa, the routine might appear the same, sit with it. Something else, something different might come up. And then in sitting with it, you would be able to define it and gain more clarity about it before you move forward. Because again, what was required for yesterday may not be what is required for today. And as we discussed this, what do you all think is the difference between external success and personal fulfillment?
I think external success is the things of the world. I get the car, I get the house, the white picket fence. But when it comes to internal, I think it's that going back to knowing who you are, more on a personal, spiritual, or, you would say your purpose. And like you're talking about having to relearn stuff now. There's some people who are comfortable just being where they are. There are some people who would like to evolve and become a better version of themselves, and in so doing, work to become, or to put the things in place to become that. So I think that's internal success for me. You know,
Personal
when,
fulfillment. Okay.
huh? Sorry?
Personal fulfillment.
Personal fulfillment.
Yeah.
It's different from external. External is things of the world. You get a car, you want a car, but you some people, you could have the external and still not have a personal fulfillment. You could buy the car. You have these billionaires who might have all the money in the world, but behind closed doors, are they happy? Behind closed doors, they're still depressed. Behind closed doors, they still have a lot of stuff going on. So the money doesn't define you and your internal self-worth and self-purpose.
Yeah. A lot of times you see external success is really for others to see. So you want this because of, or you want this because of. But when you think of personal fulfillment, I know, like even for Catherine, she was explaining, now I could be feeling, however, I am going to walk around the block. And for you, with each step that you make and every day that you accomplish it, that is personal fulfillment for you. And a lot of times we think that the personal fulfillment is not as important as how we see, the big grand things or the house or the car or the whatever it might be. But really and truly, what are you really doing about you as it comes to your personal fulfillment? Yes, you might lay out certain things that you would like to achieve, but then what are you doing towards achieving it in the long run or even in the short run? Yes, Catherine?
I had two different thoughts going through my head. And you answered one part of it because I wrote down external success. What does that mean? But between when you were speaking and Lisa was speaking, I sort of, okay, fine. No, it is possible for me, it is possible to experience things or success in areas that people can see. But can that not also be a part of your internal fulfillment? For example, if this is what you desired a new vehicle, but it took you to acquire that new vehicle, you had to exercise discipline, you had to set some targets that you had to meet within yourself. No one outside is going to be seeing those targets. And so when you have achieved the item or the event that you are seeking, isn't that also part of your internal fulfillment if that was your process? If you were looking for it just for other people to see, isn't it still a part of your internal, because nothing really exists on the external, isn't it still a part of your internal, even though your motive may be a little skewed? I'm asking.
But isn't that not based on, is it really based in truth, which is based on your purpose, or is it based on what you saw from somebody else and you would like to achieve that? It refers to where it is based.
That is what I'm asking. Because I was seeing it in two spots. One where, because it is natural to want to have lovely things, to have a lovely home. If this is what is for you, it's for you.
Mhm.
And but what is driving it?
That
And
is,
therefore,
and
when
remember,
it is accomplished, from what, okay, from what bucket did you pull the accomplishment? And therefore, yes, you can have there are two parts. One, you pull it from a thing that says, I want to show people something. You know, people say, I want, like, there's this hotel in Tobago where the man purchased the hotel, not because he wanted to own a hotel. He wanted to own that hotel, not a hotel, that hotel, because his father had once been denied entry there. So after, of course, if you go through all that length and you finally purchase that hotel, there's a kind of, okay, what next? Because your whole purpose was it didn't bring back your father. Your father is now unaware that you actually purchased the hotel that he could want because he's deceased and gone. So there's a kind of, what next? Now I have a hotel, a very expensive hotel that I'm going to run. Am I running programs now for everybody to be able to come through the door? What is driving me? Versus, okay, there was a hotel, and I always wanted to have a hotel, and now I have a hotel because I was able to go through a particular process. So for me, it's sitting in two spots, and from which bucket did you pull your drive?
and that is it, because when we were asked really weak, when you tell someone of your success, what is it for? Remember, we were told it's for external validation. So that is it. Where is it coming from? So is it part of your personal fulfillment? Well, I always wanted to do this. And again, is it based on truth? Did it come from your soul? Because I always wanted to help the community, whatever it might be? Or did it come from, well, I want to show this person this? Or I want to experience this because this person experienced it, so I wanted to do this? And is it because of external success or external validation? Or is it part of your personal fulfillment as it relates to, as and I gave the example, as it relates to you? I wanted to start to exercise, so every day I am getting up, come what may, it could be raining and all. This is part of my personal fulfillment. It is really based on where is it coming from. And again, what happens when it is based on external validation? You have to go and create, you have to go and make your own way, you have to go and fight up. And then when it comes from within, the steps tend to reveal themselves. Yes, challenges might come, but the steps still tend to reveal themselves. And a lot of times we tend to get caught up in the external success. Of course, everybody influenced by social media and all the different things that are happening. And we tend to look at that direction instead of personal fulfillment. When you know for yourself that you always had the dream of doing this particular thing, but sometimes you get distracted again and you tend to go down another road. And exactly, even with this point that was raised, how do you identify the values that should guide your goals? You understand? And that would answer your question. Did it come from external sources or did it come from within? And that is where Lisa was saying to it. Have a lot of persons, you have all this success external, everybody knows, but then when it comes to personal fulfillment, you might be feeling hollow inside. You might be miserable. And again, you really have to identify the values that guide your goals. Because a lot of, if you sit with yourself, some of the things that you're asking for, you want it so that other people could see that you have it. It's really not based in how is this really fulfilling to you. And as soon as you get it, you just leave it there, You're not even doing anything with it. You leave it, it end up decaying, it end up whatever it is. You just end up leaving it there, you know? And that is really how you're able to identify it. But a lot of times, again, we don't tend to do this. And what do you think are some of the things to help you define what success generally means to you?
Hmm.
I think it go back to where you're pulling it from, you know? Because if I'm saying, okay, well, my neighbor has X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, okay, would like to get X, Y, and Z, you get it, and it's like, okay, well, but if it's something that it's something that you really want, the feeling of the accomplishment, even simple things like, you want to get up and start meditating daily, and you see yourself working to it, and start doing it slowly and gradually, it becomes better. It's a different feel inside compared to when it's like, okay, I want what my neighbor has. It's a different sense of fulfillment.
Yes, 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 yes. Anyone else? What do you think are some of the things that assist you in defining what success genuinely means to you? Anastasia, are you there?
Good night. Yes, I am.
What are some of the things that help define what success genuinely means to you?
Um, First to begin, it must be giving me some sort of fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
It must be something that I want. Something that I want. It have nothing to do with anybody else. It have to do with me.
Okay.
It's because I create in my world, so it's what I want for me. It's not about anybody else.
Yeah. Okay. And another thing too that tends to happen is that a lot of times, especially when it relates to children, sometimes they are pressured into creating success of, their parents because their parents would like them to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it is, instead of I might just want to be a barber, or I might want to be a personal trainer. And then, even in those instances, you really have to ask yourself the hard questions. Is this something that I really wanted to do? Or is this something that, again, came from an external source? And because of the attachment I hold to this person, experience, scenario, whatever it is, that is why I taking this road. Or is this something that I was never really interested in? You really have to ask the question, is this success defined by you, or is this defined by a parent, a guardian, a teacher, a family member, or something that happened 10 years ago? And because of it, you might be saying, I want to do this thing because I want to show this person. Probably by the time you achieve it, the person might pass away. They mightn't even be here for you to show. And you're realizing a lot of the things, again, we have a lot of unlearning to do, because a lot of the things that we are holding, it have no kind of weight, and all it is really doing, it is keeping us back from achieving what we would like to achieve. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that you're doing, you're increasing the time between what you would like and what you would like to achieve. So the window just getting wider and wider and wider. So even as it relates to whatever you deem to be success or your personal fulfillment, ensure you really, really need to ensure that it is defined. And it is defined by you. And sometimes some person's definition of it might be what you're doing that for, that doesn't make any sense, that will not make you any money. And even you might think in terms of a barber, and you know, I always make the reference in terms of crew cuts, where people fly in from all over the world to get their hair cut by this one particular, because this person was able to function within their space at full capacity. They did not function at everybody else's capacity, because every other barber, they just go to cut your hair. Nope, he made this an experience. He brought in products, he have a colorist, he have a makeup artist. He made it an experience, and I know someone who went and they said it really was an experience. So it have like the tea station, and you have all the different little stations if you want to get something to eat and all of that. And again, are you creating your world at full capacity, or are you creating your world, well, tomorrow? I will do it tomorrow. And then when you try to make the call tomorrow, the person who was there, the sick for a month, or they went on maternity leave or something. And again, what do? Increase the time again. So whereas you could have been this closer, and now we back to square one, and we back to narrowing down the time. You really, really have to define your success and ensure some days, yes, you might get knocked off the ladder. Some days you might really get knocked off the ladder, but that is okay. It's really to let you know that, okay, do not head in that direction. Take a pause, ask a question, and then you might get some new coordinates. You know? When the GPS rerouting, sometimes you need to reroute. It might have a blockage on that road, so you might really need to reroute. And again, let me read another post for you, which was talking about don't read into it. You know, when certain things happen, you think, this person did me something, or my mother, cousin, neighbor, friend who told me when I grew up I would never amount to nothing, and you hold to these things and you carry it, it's still here. Don't read into it. Overthinking creates stories the present moment never wrote. But you will never know if you don't remain present to ask the question to find out what's the next step. Not every silence is rejection. Not every delay is failure. Not every challenge is a sign that things are falling apart. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is pause, breathe, and return your attention to what is real and what is actually within your control. And remember what is within your control? You. What is not within your control? People, place, and things. So please keep that in mind. You know, and as you approach this new week, define your success. Define it. What it really means. Is it based off of something somebody else told you? Is it based off of how you compare yourself to someone else? Or is it just based off of your purpose, your personal fulfillment? Ask yourself the questions and see what comes. And also to support tonight's discussion, let me let you all know what is coming up for this week. But before I let you know what is coming up for this week, for those who are interested, I think it was, I can't remember how many weeks ago, we were told to invite everyone to a discussion on religion. It is happening on Saturday, the 30th, which is Saturday coming, from 3 p.m. So if you are interested, please message us, let us know, so we could organize and send you the link for the session. and it starts at 3, and I think it might be going on till either 5 or 6 o'clock. Yes,
So
6 o'clock.
it's going to be a long discussion.
Yeah,
And
so
with snacks.
yes, bring your snacks, organize your wine glass. Again, if you would like to come physically, you can do so to the Balance Center. For those who cannot make it, feel free to log in online. Make yourself comfortable. Bring your questions so that we can discuss. You know, a lot of us, we might have a lot of questions as it relates to religion. So if you are interested, please let us know so that we can make the arrangements to ensure that you are a part of the session. All right. So let me let you know what is coming up for this week. Of course, we start with somebody said something. Just a minute. Okay. Sorry. Let me let you know what we have coming up for this week. So today, well, tonight we spoke about defining what success really means. Then tomorrow we have counseling and consultations from 10, and from 6 we would be looking at turning goals into actionable plans. From so we would be discussing how to break large goals into achievable life milestones. Then from 7 we have our fuel and flexible body workout, and for tomorrow we would be going down to do an outdoor workout at the Charlieville Savannah. Then on Wednesday from 10, we have counseling and consultations. And from 6, we would be looking at routine and habits that sustain success. So we would be discussing harness the tool necessary for consistent achievement. And you know, this is important because we really need to learn how to harness the tools, of course. Then on Thursday, the 28th, from 10, we would have counseling and consultations. And from 6, we would be looking at staying accountable and results ready. So we would be discussing accountability systems and performance methods. Then from 7, we have our fuel and flexible body workout, which would be water aerobics. So if you are interested and you would like to attend, for those who are in Trinidad, feel free. And then on Friday, we have 10 a.m. a yoga and meditation. And then from 3, we have free to be, where we release, relax, restore, and unwind. And on Saturday, of course, we have counseling and consultations from 10, and from 3, we would have the religion discussion. So again, if you are interested, please let us know, and we would organize to have the link sent to you. And it is going to be very interesting. And of course, if you have any questions, ensure that you walk with them. Guys, I want you all, sorry, I see Catherine, you have your hand raised.
Yes. I just want to invite people who have never been to the Balance Center. If you can, come on in because the vibes is different than when you sit on your phone. And it will be something new to do. You know, it's comfortable and convenient to sit behind your screen, but it's a public holiday. Come and meet with us. Come on down. It's a wonderful space. That's all I wanted to say.
Yes, so guys, have a wonderful week. Please be mindful this week. Do not let your success be defined on what is happening with Donald Trump. Do not let your success be defined by what is happening in Iran, by what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago, by the crime rate. Do not let all these things, your success, be defined by all these external things, but instead let it be defined by what comes from within. So anytime you try, you're attempting to overthink, and let the fear step in. Pause, take a breath, go within, and remember where your purpose is and where your success is defined by, not the external. So have a wonderful night. See some of you tomorrow, some of you on Saturday, and the rest of you, see you all back here at Monday. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Bye.